Hi everybody, welcome back to Ferret and Ferrets. This is my name's Alexandra Kilworth. Squeak and Pierre are currently just having some salmon oil to keep them quiet for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, 2 minutes. So yeah, before I get going, if you're at all interested in ferret, art and business-related content, or with, of course, a heavy emphasis on ferrets, please consider subscribing. I upload fairly regularly these days, so if that's something you're interested in, why not? But today's video is slightly different. So not too long ago I did a video on what it's like to be disabled and have ferrets, because ferrets take a lot of effort and they're about as much effort as a cat or dog, I'd say, so it can be a different experience having them when you are disabled or chronically ill. And this is kind of related to that but in a more specific way. So as you can see from the title, I have a condition called POTS, and it stands for postural tachycardia orthostatic syndrome, which essentially means that when you rise in posture, such as sitting up or standing up, especially standing up, your heart rate shoots up and your blood pressure in some cases shoots down, which is what happens with me. And this doesn't sound like a huge deal, except it causes symptoms such as losing your vision, fainting, blacking out, dizziness, falling, nausea, headaches, tinnitus, all this sort of thing. Essentially, yeah, it's quite difficult to live with, and I have a relatively milder version of it. I do faint, I do black out, but in most cases when I stand up I have to like pace myself for a moment to stop myself from fully passing out. And there's many things that make this condition worse, such as eating, because there's not enough blood from your, like, with your heart and head to, because this all goes down to the digestive system. So eating, standing up for too long, exercise, obviously if you're eating that makes it worse, if you're not eating enough that makes it worse. But it's a condition that essentially affects my day-to-day life. It makes work quite hard because I'm on my feet all day, which means that towards the end of my shift I'm really struggling. And yeah, of course that means that it interacts with my life as a ferret owner. And it's, before I go into this actually, I will say some people tend to mistake these symptoms as like, oh well, that happens to everyone if you're just not eating or if you're tired. And yeah, not eating enough or malnourished or restricting and some deficiencies will cause similar symptoms, but it's not the same condition, and POTS tends to be chronic, as in lifelong. And while some conditions like deficiencies will get better if you stop having those deficiencies, POTS won't go away. There are lifestyle changes, medications and all that sort of thing that help, but they're not the same thing, so just getting out of it. But yes, obviously it affects all areas of my life. While I'm lucky to not be on the severe end of it, some people with severe POTS actually are on wheelchairs because just standing up at all can make them pass out. And obviously some people are even bedbound because of it. It can be that severe. And obviously, luckily for me, I am not that bad. I just get very dizzy when I stand up. Which is why I'm sitting down today. You can't really tell, but I am on the floor today because today's a bad POTS day. I've been back at work for about 2 weeks now after being hospitalised twice. And it's been rough getting used to being back at work and being on my feet all day, not having time to just chill, and it's been hard. So yeah, I'm having a bit of a POTS flare-up, which is why I'm sitting down today. But I've been talking about this for 4 minutes, so now that you know what POTS is, let me explain how it interacts with my life as a ferret owner, what adjustments I make to help take care of my ferrets. Because yeah, it's something that I think people don't really talk about, especially in the disability community. Because you can have pets while being disabled. I talk about that in my previous video, but I'll link below. But yeah, so what changes? What do I do? For one, I try to stay sat down as much as possible. Obviously I will get up and interact with my ferrets, but I usually do it sitting down, or I'll sort of shuffle along. Sometimes I crawl around because I have a room. Sometimes I will just crawl around on the floor to get to them and pick them up. But these days I try not to like stay sat down. I try not to like stand up and walking around the room. I try not to just stand up from sitting down too much. So yeah, I'll stay sat down for most of the time. and they'll usually come to me anyway, but if I need them, like watch from an else, but yeah, come here, and they'll come over to me. And yes, that's one thing I do. But obviously it can be difficult because ferrets are small creatures that wiggle their way into nooks and crannies, and it can be quite hard if I need to go and get them from a cupboard, for example, which they keep breaking into. I will have to stand up and go over, bend over, grab them out, and then close curtain. So that can irritate my POTS symptoms. And to do that, I try to lock off that cupboard. They still get in there. I need to put a lock on it, really. But yeah, so just trying to stay sat down as much as possible, having water in the room with me at all times, crawl around to them, keep them entertained as much as possible. So I've got toys everywhere. They've got tunnels, they've got cat trees, they've got a ball pit. Keeping them as entertained as possible so that they get into the least amount of mischief as possible. Does that sound good? Oh, your nails need a trim. Oh no, let's trim your nails at the same time, shall we? But yeah, so that's one sort of thing that I do. Keeping them entertained, keeping all their toys and entertainment within reach all the time so they can access it whenever they want. What's it called? Keeping their cages higher off the floor. Keeping their cages higher off the floor is a big one, because what it means is that if I'm already standing up, then I don't have to bend back down to put them in their cage. I can do it while standing up. But at the same time, it's like they're just at the right height where if I am sitting down or shuffling around on my knees, it's at the right height where I can still put them in the cage without having to rise up too much. That's a really, really minor, subtle thing that I don't think most people really need to care about, but it works for me. So it means that when I'm standing up, I don't have to bend down as much and trigger my POTS, and if I'm shuffling around on my knees, I don't have to stand up to reach them. In a similar vein, I've got a glass cabinet over here, our frame, that has all my ferret cleaning supplies and all my ferret stuff, apart from my bedding, and that is also at the perfect level for when I am shuffling around. Is that I can slide the door open and grab it. I keep all the most frequently accessed things, like the puppy pads, for example, on the top shelf, so when I am standing up, again, I don't have to bend down too much to open it. Whereas I keep their food, water and treats on top of the cabinet, so that, again, still access them when I'm sitting down, but it's easier to access when I'm standing up as well. Essentially with POTS, you just want to create an environment that means you are not standing up for too long at a time, and you're not constantly switching from sitting down to standing up, because that will irritate the symptoms so much. So you want to have like things like on a good level where it's easily accessible from both sides, which means that there's less changing between. But it's taken me a little while to get to a point where I am confident to keep looking after my ferrets without aggravating my symptoms too much, because if I have passed out in front of Pierre before, it was before I got Squeak and after Balfi died, I have passed out in front of Pierre, and that really freaked me out because one, I'm worried if it happened again, would I fall on him? If I fell on him, I could really hurt him. You know, I'm a full grown person, he's a tiny ferret, you know. And Pierre was very freaked out. He was right up to my face, checking if I was breathing. Like, well, yeah, at least it looked like it. And felt like it. So it was a very scary little wake-up call that, you know, I need to be managing my symptoms better. As a disabled person, that makes a big difference. Having animals means that it's no longer just about myself. Even if I'm feeling really depressed and I'm not taking care of myself, I know that I have to anyway, because my ferrets rely on me. They are these innocent little creatures that have done no wrong at all, and they need me to look after them. So I have no choice. That works the same way with my POTS as well. Even if I'm not taking good care of myself, then they will suffer. So that was definitely a big wake-up call for me. I can see Pierre in the background. Pierre, come here. Come here. Come here. Yeah, you know your name. He's just ignoring me. And before that, before like recently, I've been making these changes. There's things like I would sit down, like while I was here in this room, and then the moment they need anything or do anything, I'm standing up really quickly to go after them. And that would make me feel so much worse, which is why nowadays I try to just stay sat down. I try to shuffle around on my knees. It looks ridiculous and it feels ridiculous, but it's much better than standing up suddenly and then feeling like I'm going to pass out again, or maybe I do pass out. So yeah, and when it comes to cleaning, I try to do it, I try to spot clean every day. Right at the beginning, so that it's when my symptoms have had a chance to not really show up yet, and then I'll do a big deep clean at the end of the week, usually at the end of the day, so that I have time to rest before I do it, because rest is very important. You don't want to be flaring up for symptoms because you're doing too much in one day. But yeah, so it's mostly the getting up aspect that was causing the issues. Obviously, if I'm standing up there on the ground, you do have to really bend down together, or sort of squat or kneel or whatever. And if you do that every couple minutes because they're doing something silly, because ferrets are like that, then you got just a cycle of constantly triggering your symptoms and getting worse and feeling worse, which can lead to, you know, fainting, or, you know, it could just make you feel really, really awful, so you have to cut your time with the ferret short. And yeah, it's been difficult. I only got my formal diagnosis like after I came out of hospital, but I've been having this since I was 14, 15, so I've had time to sort of get used to the symptoms, but obviously because it wasn't really validated until recently, I was not taking care of myself. I was told I was just a teenager, I just need to drink more water, have more salt, and although I did those things and a million other things I was told to do, it just wasn't getting better. But now that I have a validation, I have that diagnosis, and I have an amazing support network and community of people that help me and support me, it's just, I'm in a much better position now to take my health seriously, and as a result, look after my ferrets better and make sure they get the care and support that they need. Because like I said, if I'm not well, they are not going to get looked after, so I need to take care of myself, at least as much as I can. And that includes making adjustments. You know, if you are disabled in the workplace, you would get reasonable adjustments. Why not do that to yourself? And that's why, again, as silly as it sounds, I shuffle around, I sit down most of the time. I might kneel up instead of stand up, keep everything within reach, and that's pretty much how I do things. It's pretty much how I do things, isn't it? Yeah. So, now this be a, what a little health lesson. I'm sure most of you probably didn't know what POTS was until now, but now you know. And yeah, like I said, I know this is not my usual sort of videos, but I just wanted to talk about it really. I have a lot on my mind, and I'm still in the middle of making a few other videos, so I want to do something that's quick and easy until then. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments if there's any video ideas you want to see, or what you think about all this. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe for more ferret content. And until the next video, oh, I tried to get a squeak, come here. And until the next video, have a lovely day, week, whatever. Come on, focus. There you go. This is a squeak. Yeah. Enjoy, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.